Welcome back to No Shame with Shane. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, with all the shameless sports takes. And y'all know what time it is. The Eagles are the world champs. We are on top. Best team in the NFL. We're on top of the world, baby. It's victory week. But y'all know, in order to properly talk about the game, I had to have the fellas on. My guys, B. Smith, Brian Smith, and Connor Real, 13 News Now. Fellas, it's go time. It's go time. I want to know what you guys thought about this game. Eagles defeat the Chiefs, demolish the Chiefs 40 to 22. Just a crazy game. I want to know what you guys thought about this game. B. Smith, we'll start with you. What was your immediate reaction to this matchup?
A little surprised at how bad it was, but I also said I wasn't surprised or shocked that Philly would win. They knew what they had to do. You heard me say it the last time I was on, and I said Philly better get off to a 21-0 lead and don't look back, because if given time, Patrick Mahomes can do damage. They did exactly that. Patrick Mahomes couldn't do anything because of time of possession. At one point, it was 18 minutes to 8. That's how dominating a day was. And it was payback. The last time they lost, Philly just wanted to make sure that it was not going to be taken for granted that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And honestly, it was probably the worst performance I've seen from the Chiefs. You probably have to go back easily. It'd be years that I've seen them this bad, and particularly on the biggest stage.
All right, Connor, what about you? Your camera went black, I guess, in honor of Black History Month. But now that you're back, what did you think? What was your immediate reaction to this game?
I mean, I got to show my support. Come on now. Come on. I had to go. I had to black it out for a second there. But when it comes to the game, number one, Shane, great intro. Great intro. Way to set the stage, baby. Wait, that was the intro of a champion. Absolutely. And I want to approach this part just as a fan. I'm an Eagles fan, as you are, Shane. And so I just want to approach this from a fan. And I want to walk you through the emotion throughout the game. And then, Shane, I actually would like to hear the same from you as well in a sort of a more brief way. But obviously, we get off to the 10-0 lead. When it's 10-0, I'm thinking it's 0-0, right? I mean, the Chiefs only start to really try in the Super Bowl when they're down 10. We were up 10 on them last time. The Niners have been up 10 on them. Once they're down 10, they start to play. So it's 10-0, and I'm thinking we got ourselves a 0-0 ball game. Cooper DeJean, stand up. He gets the pick six, 17-0, but Mahomes has the ball, and they get the ball out of the half. So it's 17-0, and I'm already thinking it might as well be 17-14, maybe 17-10 if we're lucky. I still had not brought myself around to the fact that the Eagles defense was going to totally and completely dominate this team. So Cooper DeJean, 17-0. I'm preparing myself mentally for a brutal second half, just a dogfight. And then Zach Bond catches the football in the red zone, takes that thing from Pat Mahomes. That was the first moment where I realistically thought we might be able to win this game, maybe. When Zach Bond caught that interception, it was like I try to keep those thoughts out. I'm a superstitious man, all right? I try to banish any happiness from my brain until after the game is over, B. Smith. You know this. You're a Jets fan. Yeah. So, yep. But once Zach Bond caught that ball before the half, and then AJ goes and scores, and it's 24-0 going into the half, 10% of me allowed myself to believe that there could potentially be a Super Bowl ring in our future. Halftime, it was hard to focus on Kendrick, honestly. I was just like, we got to get this thing going again before the Chiefs realize they're down. So second half, we roll out. I have rewatched Kendrick, and we can even touch on that if you guys want to. I went and rewatched it. I did my work. So third quarter starts. I think we started off field goal, 27-0. And then the Chiefs have a fourth down. The Chiefs have a fourth down, and Avonte Maddox, the bane of our existence for how many games, Shane, have we watched where we're like, oh my God, Avonte Maddox is out there. Okay, no shade to him, a hard worker and a good Eagle, but there have been a lot of games where Avonte Maddox caused some pain for Eagles fans. he bats the ball down on 4th down. And after that happened, late in the 3rd quarter, we're up 27-0, and they just got stopped on 4th down. I went to my brother, fellow Eagles fan, and I said to him out loud, I think we might win the Super Bowl here. I put it out into the universe, right? A play later, Devontae Smith goes yard, and from that point on, it's a party. It's just a party. I don't think I've ever had a more fun time watching football than from that Devontae Smith touchdown on. And that's when we got outscored 22-6. But we just knew it was over. And from the moment Avonte Maddox batted that ball down, I said, we're going to win the Super Bowl. And it was lovely. It was lovely stuff. Shane, I want to know, Shane, when did you know that we were going to win? When did you allow yourself to accept? I know you're the type of guy who went into the game saying we're going to win for sure. But when did you actually know we're going to win this game?
Yeah, I knew it was a dub when it looked like Jahan Dotson scored. I mean, we hadn't seen I mean, he's been quiet all regular season, but then to bust a scorching play like that off of
you heard that, B-Man? 0-0 with Pat Mahomes on the other side. This man said, "I knew we had it."
Yeah. Anytime we get a spark play like that from a guy who really hasn't been as big of a playmaker during the season, you know, it's at least to me, it seems like it's only uphill in a positive way from there. Maybe downhill would be the better way to describe that because it's easier, you know. But like this. That was a huge moment for me because, you know, I was telling you guys, I feel like I was a Jahan Dotson advocate this season.
For
sure.
You
guys are trying to tell me, oh yeah, if Dan Quinn saw something in him, not even before camp was finished, that said, oh yeah, he's not going to be a starter. That means something's wrong with Jahan Dotson. But I tried to tell you guys, I said Jahan Dotson is a playmaker. He's a guy who has it in him. He just needs a quarterback. And what does he do in the Super Bowl? Huge play. Put us right on the one. Really, almost was a touchdown, you know. But I mean, from that moment on,
it was the symbolism. It was the symbolism for you.
Yeah, it was a symbolism because I knew if Jahan Dotson can get going this early, it's only a matter of time before our big playmakers, AJ, Smitty, Saquon, get cooking.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts is already scorching this defense. Like I could see then that it was going to be a long night for this Chiefs defense, but that's what I tried to tell y'all too. I said this Chiefs secondary was going to have a long night because they're going to try to stack the box against Saquon Barkley. It's going to leave them exposed deep down the field. You know, they didn't believe in Jalen's ability as a quarterback. They wanted Jalen to beat them. And what does Jalen do? He beats them. So, yeah. I mean, this was just a victory on so many different fronts. I mean, the defense, the defense came up huge, that wasn't really seen as much before the season. Huge victory for Nick Sirianni, who was on the hot seat this season.
He wasn't just on the hot seat. He wasn't just on the hot seat now.
Oh, we'll get into it.
In passenger seat.
I did.
Shane turned the seat warmer up to 100.
I did. I did. I can't even lie, and I apologize for it. But
he had first degree burns. It was so hot.
Big time.
No, yeah. I mean,
I do have to say this. Guys. You sound like fans who have just experienced their first Super Bowl title, even though it's your second. Is it me or am I crazy?
Here we go. All right, so we can't be thankful for the dub? We can't be thankful for greatness?
It just sounded like you feel it's the feeling of someone winning their first title, even though you're like, man, what, 3-4 years removed from your last one? I mean, it's great. It's great to see that.
7 years removed, B. Smith. Almost a decade removed.
And you got to look at what we've been through since then too. Like,
I get it.
I mean,
I understand.
We're at the height of all heights 2 years ago, making the Super Bowl, which is why the Super Bowl felt so good to me. Like, we're at the height of all heights 2 years ago. To lose in the way we did 2 years ago, coming down to a janky pass interference call, followed by one of the worst collapses in NFL history.
The collapse.
Like, I mean, the historic and tragic collapse to then come back this year and do what we did. I mean, that's really why this Super Bowl win is so special to me. Not just because it's the Eagles, but because of everything that went into this history making season,
Yes.
really.
And Shane, I'll say this, Shane. First of all, that was a beautiful explanation. I could not have said it better myself, but you didn't even need to do all that because when it comes to B. Smith, there's a saying. It goes, act like you've been there before, but B. Smith's never been there.
No. I loved it. I'm not knocking it. I love it.
Like to have this feeling.
But
B. Smith, who's your team again? Just for the folks that don't know.
It would be the New York Jets.
Oh, that's why.
Yes.
Anybody got a quarterback available? Anybody got a quarterback? Perhaps
could use one. Would love to have one right now. Yeah.
Y'all might bring Sam Darnold back. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers is out of a job. Y'all might bring Sam back.
Now I got.
He would never come back. He would never come back.
Too many ghosts. Too many ghosts in that stadium.
Oh, too many ghosts. Yes, too many.
I got another question. Another Super Bowl question for you guys. I wonder, watching the game, obviously, from a physical standpoint, our defensive line in particular was too much for the Chiefs. We beat them because we were physically more gifted, more deep, more well-constructed. But do you guys wonder, based on the all-out demolition style of this thing, were the Chiefs mentally prepared for this game? We can't know, right?
Yeah,
but they get a bad personal foul penalty on our second drive. Kelsey was just off. I mean, Kelsey and Mahomes just could not connect, and those guys have one of the great connections in playoff history, and they just could not connect. And they were not able to generate anything positive on either side of the ball. And it's not that they would ever mentally, it's not a lacking clutch thing because we know they're clutch. No. I wonder, does any part of you think maybe they felt like we beat these guys before, we're here every year, we're the team of destiny, we're going to three-peat, and they felt like we're going to win this game in no matter what? Like, do you think there was any overconfidence there? I'm just trying to figure it out. They're such a good team.
I don't think it's necessarily overconfidence. I think if you've done what they've done over the last few years, you're going to have confidence going into this. I don't think they lacked it. The problem was, remember our last time when we had talked, I said they had the ugliest record for a great team that I've ever seen because 7 of the games were one-possession games. In a big game like this, you get exposed, and they got exposed.
You don't think it was mental at all? You just think they were not that good of a team? And
they were that good of a team, but they had good fortune to do that. But when the margin for error is so razor thin, particularly in the Super Bowl, teams like the Eagles, the way they played, exposed them. You can't play that way. You can't just, okay, we'll be okay. No, you cannot. You will not be okay.
Right.
I mean, if given a chance, they get in a short, if it's one possession game, sure. Less than that, the money's on them. But the Eagles made sure, all right, you're that good. We're up 24-0. Try and come back on us now. And they took their souls.
So, Shane, what do you think? Mental component?
I honestly think it was a little bit of both. I think physically, talent-wise, they were not as good as this Eagles team.
Right.
But I also think it was mental. Like, I feel like, honestly, the Chiefs had the same sort of mindset as an entitled, spoiled child. Like, you are used to a certain lifestyle.
Right.
So you think that you are entitled to certain things and deserving of certain things. Like, B. Smith, I like what you said. They thought it was their destiny to win 3 in a row.
Right.
They thought it was they thought this was their year. They thought this was their time to put themselves amongst the top, or really at the top spot in terms of dynasties in the all-time, list of the NFL. I feel like the Chiefs this year honestly suffered from what the Eagles suffered from last year. Because they were winning games, they thought, we're good. I mean, we're winning games. It doesn't matter how we're winning games. We're still winning games.
Play well.
Playoff time.
It's human nature. It's human nature. They're human. Yeah.
Right. The Eagles last year had the same mentality. We're coming off of a Super Bowl runner-up year. We pretty much have the same squad aside from a few pieces on the defense. We're thinking, we're winning.
I was thinking the same thing, Shane. I went back and looked through. We totally revamped that defense.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like even though, we we clearly had some spots missing on the defense last year. We thought because we still had the offense that we had, because we still had at least the main guys on defense, we thought that there was no way we weren't going back to the Super Bowl this year, which I'm honestly looking back, I'm glad that we went through what we went through last year because it humbled us. It humbled this team to put them in the right mindset that they needed in order to do what they did this year, which is really the motivation that they needed. I think the Chiefs suffered from that same type of mindset, thinking that, because we won two back-to-back, because everyone is telling us that this is our mission, because this is what we're supposed to do this year, there's only one way this can go. But they weren't expecting to get punched in the mouth the way they did by the Eagles.
Yeah, and I think the Eagles were a better team, and I think even if the Chiefs came out mentally 100%, which they may have been, again, we don't know what went on in that locker room, I still think the Eagles win. But just for it to be a complete no-show for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched the NFL Films mic'd up thing?
I've been watching it.
First of all, one of my favorite pieces of media that we've ever been gifted in the history of sports for myself. Watching the Chiefs players go through the slow, painful progression of letting go of this dream. Because every touchdown, they're like, all good, we'll get it back. And then the Eagles score again. And it's like, let's just get one on the board. We're fine. Right. And then the Eagles score again. And one of the players even says, Coach, if the Patriots did it, we can do it. Right. The Patriots did it. We can do it too. And that's when you know, it's over.
It's not about being delusional on their part. They just believe because they were in 7 games just this season alone of 1 possession or less. Yeah, you're going to keep thinking that. We've done it before. We've done it again. Only in this case, it wasn't one of them.
Yeah, this was. I mean, honestly, they were bound to have a fallout the way they did in the Super Bowl because of. The way they were winning their games this year. A lot of those wins just weren't convincing. They either got significant help from the refs, or
here we go with the refs again.
It was them just. I'm serious though. This game, if anything, this game proved that they don't get calls going their way. In the biggest game of the year, and they end up being scoreless through 3 quarters. I don't think it had anything to do with that. I don't think it had anything to do with not getting calls. They got overpowered outside of any amount of ref interference. I think it's a discredit to the Eagles to say that the refs had anything to do with this result. Well, no. I'm not saying that the refs. I'm not saying that the refs missed calls. I'm not saying the refs missed calls because the Eagles played clean. The Eagles played clean.
You brought this up. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Shane.
Well, all I'm saying is that because really the refs, and I know what you guys think about this, but the refs are really what saved the Chiefs in the last time these two faced off in the Super Bowl. So I think us seeing the type of game that this was this year, I think that it really reinforces the argument that, you can accredit, at least this season, and aside from the Super Bowl, obviously in 2022, in my opinion, you can accredit a significant portion of their success this season to the help of the officials.
Yeah. How about the other team just didn't play well when it counted?
That too.
I think it's just that. I think it was just bottom line. And I'll go as far, even as recent as the AFC title game. Buffalo had a chance. They didn't take advantage of it. Plain simple. Refs had nothing to do with that. When you don't play well, you're not going to win. And they always figured out, up until the Super Bowl, they always figured it out. But you can't keep tempting fate like that. And that's exactly what happened. They got taken out. And 7 times for that to happen, for 7 points or less, and you win, that doesn't happen to just anybody. In their case, they were able to pull it off. Only in this case, you can only keep doing that. It's like Russian roulette. You can't play with it. Ultimately, there's going to be something in that chamber, and they found out.
Okay, so looking at how this game went, both performances, we've touched on, overall how both teams looked in this matchup. What do you guys think the possibility is of a rematch in 2026? We've already seen 2 rounds of this matchup. What do you guys think is the possibility of a round 3 in 2026? B. Smith, we'll start with you.
For the Chiefs, I don't see them getting back to the Super Bowl. Not next year. They, from what I think I've heard, draft wise, they're not going to have the to get younger draft picks. I don't know what their cap situation is. I'm not a capologist in any way, shape, or form. They'll retool. I think they'll still make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be back to the Super Bowl not next year.
I think you talk about just, I don't know that I'm ready to make a prediction in terms of who can or cannot get back to the draft. Based on something B. Smith said, it looks like they've got their first round pick, they've got their second round pick, they've got 2 third-round picks, including the Titans pick, which is really high in the third round. They don't have a 4th, 5th, or 6th. They got 2 7. So it seems to me like they're okay in terms of draft capital right now. As far as the Chiefs go, I just wanted to grab because you said they don't have their 4th, 5th, or 6th. So I guess maybe not depth wise. You lost a couple picks. In terms of these two teams getting back to the Super Bowl, if it were to happen, we might have some revolts going on in America here. I did not run into too many people who weren't Eagles or Chiefs fans that were happy with this matchup, which I get with the Chiefs. Maybe there's a little fatigue. I thought the Eagles deserved more grace. I feel like they're a pretty entertaining football team with a lot of stars on it that's only been in 1 Super Bowl in the past 5 years. I don't know why people were fatigued with us, but they were. I think it's they've got as good a chance as any other team. These two teams, it's Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, Lions, Eagles. I guess Commanders will start having that conversation this year, and then you move down to the next tier. I think the Chiefs have as good a shot as anybody of getting out of the AFC. I think the Eagles have as good a shot as anybody of getting out of the NFC. It's not overwhelming, but they both bring back most of their talent. We'll see what happens with Kelsey. We'll see if the Chiefs can revamp the O-line. We'll see if the Eagles can stave off that comes with Super Bowl championships, which is that everybody's got a few more endorsements. Everybody's getting more attention. Everybody's getting more love. Everybody wants more money. That's what happens when you win Super Bowls. Can the Eagles hold that off to become maybe sort of a mini dynasty here? But I think they've both got a great shot to get back to the Super Bowl with some competition in their own conferences as well. So I don't know that I think it's a normal chance. I know that's not a super exciting answer, but that's what I got.
Well, I mean, I see why you say that, but truthfully, I think the chances for a rematch are significantly lower than normal, specifically because of the Chiefs. B. Smith, I more so agree with you. I do not believe that the Chiefs will make it back to the Super Bowl, at least next year. I mean, who knows, what could happen next 2, next 3, but I really do not believe, I strongly do not believe that the Chiefs will make it back next year because one, I mean, not to doubt Mahomes, but I think Travis Kelce is good.
No, it's not that.
Travis,
it's a 6-year run, guys. 6 years of going deep. Seven years. 7-year run. And,
7 conference title games in a row.
Yeah. Shane, you played football. You know what the wear and tear on a human body playing football. Imagine doing that at the NFL level for 7 years and you get this many Super Bowl titles. You're going to be worn out. And then everybody catches up with you.
You think they're physically worn down?
And mental. Yes.
Mentally worn down.
It's hard to win. It's hard to stay on top like that.
Yeah, literally. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I feel like if you watch that game, the Chiefs look just so defeated. I mean, really by halftime, like you could see there was nothing left. Yeah. And I'm looking at their stars specifically. Like let's look at the offense for a second. Like I don't believe that this offense has enough to make it back next season, especially the way they played football this season. You look at Travis Kelce just in his eyes looked like he had nothing left to sort of bring to the table in terms of, giving Mahomes something to work off of to fight their way back into this game. He looked completely devastated, completely defeated. Like that's the type of look in a player's eyes where his timer is running to zero. Like,
Shane, any player who loses the Super Bowl is going to have a certain mark on that.
You're right. But I think, I don't know. I mean, this could be biased, but to me, it looked different. Like it really, because he was already on the brink of retirement going into this game. I don't see Travis Kelce adding another gear, to the Kelce that we are used to seeing, especially in the playoffs. I don't see this offense making much of a splash this year. especially with D-Hop. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen D-Hop drop a wide open catch in his entire career. Like, I mean, you can maybe count it on 3 fingers, maybe 2.
Yeah.
The times that we've seen D-Hop drop a ball, let alone drop a ball wide open, completely uncontested, which would have been a crucial first down in the Super Bowl. But I just think
Hop is retiring. Hop is retiring, I think.
So even then, I mean, you have the core guys on this offense are on the brink of retiring. D-Hop, Travis Kelce, and then looking at the defense, a huge reason as to why this Chiefs team was on that dynasty level was Chris Jones holding down the defense. I mean, really single-handedly wreaking havoc to offensive lines, especially in the playoffs. He was super banged up. I mean, you could really see the age in his performance in the Super Bowl. I just don't see it. And then you're looking at the Eagles.
Cumulative effect. That's the cumulative effect.
So let me jump in real quick because I have a different opinion from you guys. Will they make it back to the Super Bowl? I mean, just the odds are extremely low of even making it back their past year. I mean, nobody does what they're doing right now. This is Patriots level stuff. In terms of just being blessed with injury luck and matchup luck and just it's hard to have everything go right this many times in a row. So from that perspective, I agree with you guys. It's more likely that they won't make it because at some point every team runs into some bad luck or along their route. But in terms of the actual gameplay, first of all, they still return the best player on the planet, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Andy Reid will be their coach coming back. Pacheco was hurt for a large portion of this season. You would imagine he'll be back and healthy. Rashee Rice looked fantastic to start this season. He should be back and healthy, you would hope. Can he become a number 1 receiver? I thought Xavier Worthy had a really good rookie season. So can Xavier Worthy come back and be a legit threat, a legit week in and week out, really, really good receiver? If all 3 of those guys play close to their potential, Pacheco, Rice, and Worthy, you've got a nice little trio of offensive weapons on your hand. Noah Gray is not Travis Kelce, but they do have a tight end who they've been developing, who was drafted fairly high in Noah Gray, who could come in and start to produce. If they're going to be dominant going forward, I don't think Kelce is going to be the focus of their offense any longer. So if you just feel like you can't replace a Kelce, I would understand that. But they do have some young pieces there. Defensively, they have allocated a majority of their draft capital towards defense. So on the defense, you do have young talent. Karlaftis, Connor, let's see. How old is
Not you, Connor. Another Connor.
Yeah.
Omenahu.
Tranquil has been, he's been there for a little while, but over the last few years, they have dedicated resources to that side of the ball, and they're relatively young over there. So,
I will say this, Connor, not to interrupt. You also have to factor in the rest of the AFC. I mean, come on, the Bills, the Ravens, they're coming. If there's ever a time to go,
Beastman. Shane told me that those guys can't. Those guys, they can't win the big one.
If there is ever a year to go after him and dethrone them, next year would be it.
Don't come for me. I'm playing.
Yeah, Beastman. I think this year, looking at the AFC, I think just like you said, I think they have a better chance this year. Coming off of the low that they are. I think. Now I'm never going to gamble, put my money on Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen when going up against Patrick Mahomes. But I think if there was any year where they did have a better chance, it would be this year where they're coming off of an all-time low. I mean, being completely scoreless.
All-time low. Hold on. I hear you, but they were also 15-1 and made it to their 3rd straight Super Bowl and their 4th. So a low, yes, but it's much higher than almost any other franchise has ever even experienced.
That is.
I'll put it this way.
Low point.
So in you guys' opinion, and Connor, you can take this one. I didn't mean to cut you off. You can take this one first. Do you think the Chiefs dynasty is over for good? It doesn't sound like you think that.
Well, let me just say, first of all, we're all being extremely polite to each other today, which is nice. Typically, we've already had 3 apologies for cutting each other off. Usually, I can't wait to cut you guys off.
I'm trying to provide a little more order to this production. That's all. I'm trying to provide a little more order, a little more organization.
I was going to say, this whole no shame place isn't run very well. I don't know who's doing the behind the scenes work over here. And you also know it's going to get nasty later on once we.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's about to get ugly. So I gotta make it concise, organized now because I know it's gonna be just madness in a few minutes.
Yeah, fair. So in terms of the Chief dynasty being over, in terms of getting back next year, I think the mental fatigue is what I would be most concerned about. Not only are you playing deep into the season every year, all that preparation, all that focus, just the amount of personal and emotional equity you have to pour into winning one playoff game, much less 4 in a row every season. I think that could potentially result in a down year or two. Patriots 2006 style down year, right? In terms of the dynasty being over long term, I believe so strongly in Patrick Mahomes that as long as he is there and as long as he is physically capable, I think that their window and their dynasty lasts for as long as he is there. To what degree they'll be successful, I think that they have to rebuild on the offensive line. They have to hope these young weapons work out. I think they've done a good job of building the defense. I do. It seems that way. I do not think the Chiefs dynasty is over by any means. Patrick Mahomes is still there. If he's the player that I think he is, they've got multiple Super Bowls in their future. Next year, we'll see. Because here's the other part of this too with these Chiefs, okay? Not only are they pouring everything they have into the football, we saw it. You saw it with the 90s Bulls, B. Smith. The circus is in town when the Chiefs play. The Taylor Swift of it all the primetime games. They've got more media at their press conferences. They have to pour. There's just more distractions, more stuff to take care of, more stuff to worry about, more stuff to get asked about. They're the class of the NFL. They're the most popular team in the NFL for 3 years running. And so you have to deal with all of that. So is there a come down from the general emotional output they've experienced over the last 3 years? I'm interested. In terms of the long-term dynasty, they're good.
And they're the one team
going to win more Super Bowls.
They're the one team that's been able to handle it and sustain it up until this year. They're the one team that's been able to do it.
I thought the Pats handled it and sustained it well.
No. I'm talking about right now. Not the Pats. We know back then they could, but they're the one team. But in terms of the Chiefs right now, of all the teams that can handle sustained success, besides the Patriots era, would be the Chiefs right now. They've shown it.
I think the Bills are handling sustained success well.
Okay, wait a minute. We're talking dynasties here. Don't you dare bring the Bills into
it. It has to include teams who have won Super Bowl titles.
We're talking dynasties right now.
Sustained success includes. I don't
care if he won MVP.
No.
We're talking dynasties. We're talking winners.
All right. Everybody stop yelling. Now, Shane,
I got thoughts on this, but B. Smith, you take it real quick. Do you think
real quick, because B. Smith, before you go, I just want to note. Let's note for later that when I mentioned the name Taylor Swift, Shane's eyeballs rolled back to the other side of his head.
I know,
and he started loosening his neck in a sense.
Yeah,
but Shane, all I'm saying it's
all part of it.
It's an added layer to what the Chiefs are dealing with from an emotional standpoint.
You're saying in terms of having to deal with that makes them mentally stronger is what you're saying.
I don't think it makes them mentally stronger. I think that they have so many things weighing on them. Getting back to the Super Bowl. I forget what coach it was, but there's an NBA coach that made an analogy where a team, I think it was Chuck Daly with the Pistons or maybe even Bill Laimbeer, where a team is like a slowly tightening vice. Yep. And in the beginning, as it's tightening, it means you're getting closer and you're becoming what you're supposed to be. You're strong. You're tightening. But the longer you're together and the longer you're forced to achieve at higher and higher levels, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
At the seams.
And eventually it bursts, just like the Pistons in 1990, just like every dynasty we've ever seen, just like the Patriots in 2019, eventually 2020. Eventually that thing will burst. And one of the very small things that is putting pressure on the Chiefs' vice is that their players are massive global celebrities now and everything that comes with that, including dating superstars. It's just all one thing. I'm not saying it's not a major issue, but it's another sprinkle on a cake that's just starting to taste a little too sweet. Not my best analogy.
I want
to hear Shane. Go, Shane.
No. I'm gonna let B. Smith. I got thoughts on this. B. Smith, you go first.
No, keep going. I want to hear this.
No. Because B. Smith, I already know what you think. You say what you got to say, and then I'll go.
What in terms of what Connor just said?
No. I could care less about what Connor just said. He's talking about. He's talking about all the surrounding things. Look, now I'm talking about.
Shit.
It matters. I'm talking about
it
the
matters.
ability to be the best of the best. I understand the off the field things matter.
No,
it doesn't matter to me as much. It's honestly a reason why I think
football-wise, they're in a good spot. Football-wise, they're in a good spot. I laid that out first, at least. I laid that out first.
if you want to go back further, Shane, there's perspective. And I'm a Mets fan, but the great Yankee team.
No, you don't say.
No. Yeah, exactly. From the 30s, 40s, 50s, not only were they dominant, they had star power too. You had Joe DiMaggio dating Marilyn Monroe. They still kept winning. You go into the 70s from a baseball term, the A's. They won 3 straight World Series titles. There was always conflict going crazy within the clubhouse. The Yankee teams of the late 70s, Billy Martin, Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson was star power. He was the straw, as he self-proclaimed, that stirred the drink. All of that kind of drama. George Steinbrenner, the then owner of the Yankees. You see that. We mentioned the Bulls in the 90s. You had Dennis Rodman. There was always a circus of some type happening with these great teams that they were able to sustain that success in spite of all the drama that comes with it. Patriots as well, although less drama, in my opinion.
Since you hit baseball, just real quick, I'm so sorry. Shane, we're hijacking your pod. I'm so sorry. I know B. Smith will get a little laugh out of this. Did you see Pat Mahomes Sr. about to fight John Rocker in the streets?
That was so funny. I was wondering who that was. I went, John Rocker. I'm like, what the? I don't know.
The ghost of Atlanta Braves passed.
I'm like, let it go. I'm like, bro, you trying to take on Pat Mahomes? I'm like, and then the dad's trying to go after Rocker, and I'm like, the man's probably twice your size. Why would you want to mess with that?
And that stuff, when you're the Chiefs and you're the most famous team, there's cameras on your guys and your families all year in and year out. You see how I brought that back around, Shane? Brought that
right back around.
Brought it back. All right, go ahead, Shane. Go ahead.
Well done, sir.
You can have your pod back.
I don't even.
That means we're right.
I think everything y'all just said, like all the off the field stuff, I think those are things that'll keep them relevant. I think that'll keep us talking about the Chiefs, but I don't see it translating to them remain. Like me personally.
No, we're saying it's going to hurt them, not help them, Shane.
Oh, well, I said I agree with that, but you guys were coming off as if like them having to deal with all this off the field drama, at least how it sounded to me, will make them stronger.
No. Okay. That's part of the success. I tell you what.
Accidentally agreeing.
We're on the same page. But at the same time, I don't think that's like the only reason why.
No, of course not. Of course not. The football is the main reason.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Let the Eagles go on a run like the Chiefs just did, and don't think that there'll be some form of a circus happening. Somebody's going to be dating a famous singer or whatever the case may be.
Wait. Shane. What Eagles player is most likely to date a celebrity in the next 2 years? And
someone's going to be dating SZA.
For bonus points, Saquon is a married man with multiple children.
I didn't say Saquon. I said let somebody else date SZA.
I thought you said Saquon. My bad.
No. If somebody's dating SZA, for example, and all of a sudden it becomes big news. That sort of stuff.
I got Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean's gonna bag somebody. Cooper DeJean's gonna bag somebody. We'll probably see him with a SZA sometime soon.
That's good.
Probably see him with SZA. But on a real note though, I think this Chiefs dynasty is over specifically because you can only have one. You can only have one dynasty, and that dynasty is going to be the Eagles. I think the Chiefs dynasty is over.
Is that true?
No,
you can't have a dynasty.
Tom Brady had 2 different dynasties.
But I'm saying, he had two 10-year eras. But I'm saying you can't have two dynasties in the league at one time, because then it's not a dynasty.
It's an
The
interesting
dynasty
point.
is
It's an interesting point.
the one team
True.
that is consistently on top. So
I
if I'm
would-
looking at the Chiefs, so if
I
I'm
would
looking
say-
at the Chiefs, I
Yeah.
think their dynasty is over because there can only be one. And that one dynasty that I'm predicting is the Eagles. I think the Eagles have the best shot in the future of being a dynasty really as early as next year. I mean, they're already building, or really they've already built the foundation of what it takes to be a dynasty. A team that is consistently in the Super Bowl, let alone the playoffs. They've had 2 Super Bowl appearances in 3 years. They're bound, and I think they're bound to make another Super Bowl appearance next year, and could really make one the year after that. And I know whenever someone's team wins the Super Bowl, it's a normal thing that they'll think, oh yeah, we're going back next year. But I really truly believe that the Eagles have the best chance out of any other team in the league of making the Super Bowl, because we've really never seen a team as good as the Eagles in terms of Super Bowl winning teams. Out of the last century, now hear me out. Out of the last century,
Did you
this
know what?
Eagles team, listen. Out of the last century, this Eagles team
You're
is
saying
the
in the
only
last
Super Bowl
100 years they're the greatest Super Bowl champion
100%.
of the last
100%.
100 years?
100%. Hear me out. Out of the last century,
Smith, were you around in
out of
1985?
all time,
I was, sir.
You want to talk to him about that?
Listen. All time NFL teams. This is the only Super Bowl winning team this century that has had a top 5, top 10 inarguable quarterback. Even though Jalen Hurts has really proven to be top 5, y'all know what I think about him, but top 10 at least. Only Super Bowl winning team to have 2 elite receivers who are unquestionably top 20, really top 10 for Devontae Smith. AJ Brown has a case for being top 3. Only Super Bowl winning team to have a 2,000-yard rusher. Only team to have a top 3 offensive line and a second-ranked defense in scoring that also won the Super Bowl without blitzing the opposing quarterback one time.
Well,
It's only been one team. It's only been one team to have all of these collective components, and it's been this Eagles team, while also being arguably the youngest team in the NFL. At least looking at the defensive side of the ball, they have the youngest defense in the entire NFL, which means they have not only time, they have not only time, but the Eagles. The Eagles organization, they also have more money to do different things because of how young this Eagles defense is. And then you look at this offense. This offense is going to be together for at least the next 4 years as a collective. So I really feel like
Lane Johnson has 4 more years in him.
Even without Lane Johnson, I mean, Lane Johnson at least has 3. He said that he doesn't plan on retiring within the next 2 years. So even I think we can still make it to a Super Bowl without Lane Johnson, at least one. So even if you're looking at this organization as a collective, I think they definitely have the best chance of being a dynasty, which is why I think this Chiefs dynasty is over, because there can only be one.
Okay, so let's do 2 different. Let's split this. Okay. The first thing that you're saying is the Eagles are the new dynasty, and therefore the Chiefs will have to fade because there can only be one dynasty at a time. That's assuming a lot about the Eagles. I'll say the Patriots were a dynasty where they had a big burst, and then they had some down years where they were still competitive, and then they had another burst. I personally consider that to be one dynasty. So I do believe that you can have a dynasty that if the Chiefs next year lose in the divisional round, and then the next year they lose in the Super Bowl, and then Andy Reid leaves and they reload for 2 years, and then Pat goes and wins back-to-back, that's still a Chiefs dynasty, right?
Yeah, but there's room in between for another dynasty to grow, even if it goes the way you just said. Like if there was a consistent winner between the 2 Brady eras of winning, I mean, if there was a consistent team that went to the Super Bowl back-to-back or was in the Super Bowl consistently, that's room for a dynasty. And the Seahawks are in that conversation. One of the most historic defenses to ever play the game. One of the best, at least dual threat quarterbacks to ever play the game in prime Russell Wilson. Like the Seahawks, you could say the Seahawks are in that dynasty conversation. I think the Eagles have the potential to surpass the Seahawks in terms of dynasties, but 2 things can be true. Like the Chiefs can be the Chiefs coming off their current dynasty, which is a dynasty, they still can be a dynasty in like 3 or 4 years down the road. That doesn't mean that there can't be another dynasty in between those two eras, which I believe the Eagles have a strong chance of being.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. The word dynasty is a little tough. I'll say this. I think that you can absolutely have 2 or 3 great teams in the league at the same time. I think that's possible.
I agree.
And I think that a dynasty is a hard thing to define. That's probably another podcast. But I think that the Chiefs and the Eagles can both be great, truly great teams in the league at the same time. There's enough talent to go around that I think you can have 2 great teams. So I think you can say the Eagles might repeat, the Eagles might form their own little mini dynasty while still respecting that the Chiefs remain the class and the Kings and a dynasty on their own. So I think the 2 things can exist concurrently. But all right, so let's dive into your second notion, your second thing there, because I appreciate the take, and I knew you were going to come hot today. All right, I knew. I was like, Shane's gonna be shaming. You're saying that the Eagles are the greatest Super Bowl champion of all time. Is that what you're saying?
I think they make a case for it. I think overall as a team, I think this has to be top 2 at least in terms of greatest Super Bowl winning teams of all time. They have to be top 2 at least.
What's your?
I really don't know how you could make. I really don't know how you can make an argument for them being 2. Like what would you like?
I'm
what team would you really
right here? Well, Shane,
what team could you really put over the Eagles this year in terms of all-time Super Bowl winning teams?
If you're talking all time, I think that you have created a beautiful take, and I love where your head's at. And I think if you go position group by position group, this team has no holes. And I think that's a great argument. For you to say you can't make an argument for anyone else, I think is a little bit presumptuous. I mean, there are plenty of great teams, the 04 Pats, the 85 Bears, the 84 Niners. I mean, there are a ton of teams where you could make the argument.
How about the Troy Aikman-led Dallas Cowboys, 3 Super Bowl titles in 4 years?
In the mid-90s Cowboys, there's lots of teams that are
I'll go as far as saying
you can make the argument, but what I'm saying is I don't think it's crazy to make the argument that the Eagles surpass all of those teams in terms of dynasties, because those teams have won multiple.
No,
those teams have won multiple. Obviously, those teams have won multiple. But I'm saying at least in terms of just being a Super Bowl winning team, like from one singular year, I think you can make that case that the Eagles are 1. They have a shot at 1, let alone 2.
You can make the case. Definitely. The NFC Conference Championship game performance, the lack of holes on their roster. If Jalen Hurts uses this as a springboard to become a Hall of Fame quarterback, then you can definitely make the case. B. Smith, go ahead and just do what you got to do here, because I know you got some things.
For starters, Shane, you can make a case when you guys go unbeaten one year, because the Dolphins went back to back and included a perfect season. That's for starters.
So would you? So are the Dolphins?
No.
That was a totally different era of ball, though. That was a totally different era of ball.
You brought other eras.
You brought us centuries worth of saying that they're the best ever. So
you brought us
one, go unbeaten.
But if you're looking, at that team,
go back to back. Go back to back. No, I'm not talking position. We're talking best teams ever. Go unbeaten. That's for starters. Go on.
Okay,
that's
if
for
you're
starters.
looking at the talent on that team,
win 3 in 4 years like the Cowboys did, or do it. Just get to where even the Chiefs have done. Just in the last 7 years, do what they've done. Then you make a case. Now, as I said, you've heard me say this before. Body of work is important. It is.
It does matter.
Because if you're trying to go 100 years. The NFL, it's a little over 100 years old. Yeah, you're going back that far. Now you are stirring up the ghost of the past, because you're like, this is the best team ever, above any other team we've ever seen. I'm like, no, they're one of. Yes,
there's a discussion to be had.
I will not.
Shane's point,
but don't.
Shane's point is that if you go position by position and compare this team to any team in history, this team has a case based on it is so perfectly built There is not a single weakness position group to position group. They are excellent at every position, and you won't find that even on some of the greatest teams throughout NFL history. And then the counter argument from B. Smith is the game's not played on paper. The game is played on the field, and there are teams that have accomplished just as much, if not more, as this Eagles team accomplished. It's a great discussion. Shane, I love that you crafted
it. It is.
I love that. Well, let's do a No Shame with Shane during the summer when it's a dead period where we do our top 5 NFL teams of all time, something like that.
Yes,
and
I'll go as far as, and I'm not a Cowboys fan. Find me a better offensive lineman than Larry Allen.
Talk to him, Shane.
Anywhere on the Eagles, anywhere. Larry Allen was the man.
Talk to him about Lane Johnson, Shane. Talk to him about
Lane Johnson. Not one of the best tackles? Is not the best tackle in the game right now?
That's the wrong way to go.
He's not a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer right now.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
Cowboys won 3 Super Bowl titles in 4 years. Get to that point and get back to it.
We're talking about
several Hall of Famers on that team.
This isn't a dynasty conversation. We're talking about in terms of those who have simply won a Super Bowl at least one year, the Eagles have to be at least top 2, top 3 in that discussion. I think there's a case for the best. I think there's a case for the best.
One other footnote, can't disrespect the 4-time Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers. You can pick one of those teams.
Yeah.
You can't leave them all. Anyway,
that was my point. There's a lot of teams in this discussion.
Yes.
We don't want to overreact, but I do believe Shane is right in that the Eagles have submitted their application for the greatest single season team of all time. It is being reviewed. I don't know that it's going to be tough. We got to dive a little deeper into that. I don't want to sleep on it, but no weaknesses on that roster. I genuinely believe that, especially with Jake Elliott learning how to kick again for the Super Bowl. You know, he's got the most made field goals in Super Bowl history. Did you know that?
Say it one more time.
Jake Elliott has the most made field goals in Super Bowl history, according to one graphic that I saw. I would have bet Adam Vinatieri for sure.
Yeah,
that's probably the most ironic stat that has ever been mentioned on this podcast. On this platform,
wow. Crazy.
The most ironic stat.
Now,
but sorry, go ahead.
We're running out of time. Can I do my Jalen Hurts thing?
I was gonna say. So we've talked about sort of the broader picture of these teams. What do you guys think what do you think that Jalen Hurts proved in the Super Bowl in his performance? Connor, we start with you.
So, well, in short, and then I will go longer as I typically do. He proved me wrong. I had questions. And I'll speak from the perspective of an Eagles fan, okay, is that I knew there was no doubt that Jalen Hurts had become a very, very good NFL quarterback. To make a Super Bowl run at all, to have a special season where you're second in MVP, there's no question that Jalen Hurts had established himself as a very good NFL quarterback. My question was, is he a great NFL quarterback? Because we've seen players, specifically quarterbacks, have one magical run where everything comes together. Health-wise, schedule-wise, matchup-wise, everything comes together, and you can go on one magical run. Cam Newton with the Panthers, Matt Ryan with the Falcons, Flacco with the Ravens. You can, if you are a really, really good quarterback, you can have one of those runs. If you are a great quarterback, it means that you are a genuine threat to make one of those runs each and every year as circumstances change. Roster, health, schedule. As those things change, because you are a great quarterback, you are a threat to go on one of those runs every year. And I did not know, after last year's collapse and some inconsistency this season, I did not know if Jalen Hurts was that guy. Shane, hand up. You told me he is that guy. And I said, Shane, I don't know. I got to see it. I don't know. And he showed, and then some, that he is that guy. No matter how good the roster is, no matter how good the O-line is or Barkley, Jalen Hurts proved that he is that guy. He's a great quarterback in this league. And I think that this Super Bowl for me was proof of that. Okay. Now there's a second discussion that we're going to have here, I think. Now we get to talk about Jalen Hurts, or at least I now, and maybe I should have before. Now we talk about him in that upper echelon, right? And so what I've got my quarterbacks in tiers. Patrick Mahomes is in a tier by himself at the top. Tier 2 has been Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. And I believe each of the 4 of those guys, based on their body of work, even if they all have some weaknesses in that second tier, I believe all 4 of those guys have established themselves as a threat to go on a run year in and year out. I think Jalen Hurts is in that tier now. He's in that second tier below Mahomes with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. Now, where we are going to differ is where in that tier he ranks. But for me, him being in that tier is what he proved. And then the other part of this is I think that Jalen Hurts' single greatest superpower is his ability to get better. I think that he goes in the offseason, he learns new things, he adds pieces, and not only that, he's able to apply those pieces going forward on the field. Because I watched his speech to the team before the Super Bowl, and he spoke about his history in championship games. And he was talking about the last Super Bowl, and he said, at least I didn't get benched, right? Because in his first major national TV championship game, he got benched. And so for that guy to be able to turn himself into a guy that is Super Bowl MVP, Jalen Hurts' ability to improve, I think, is his most impressive trait. And that being your most impressive trait means that you have no ceiling. So can he keep getting better, and can he become someone who is an all-timer or a Hall of Famer? We get to have that discussion now, in my opinion. And apologies to Jalen for not having that discussion about him before. I needed to see this second run. I needed to see it, and I saw it. And so, no more doubts. B. Smith?
Hold on. Let me say something real quick. Connor.
Please, go right
ahead. I have never been more proud of you
Shut up.
in my life than in this moment. I've never been more proud. B. Smith, you take it, but I had to say, Connor, I have never been so taken by your words before.
Yeah.
I had to get that out there. But B. Smith, go ahead.
I did it for you, Shane. I did it for you.
I'm in full agreement with my colleague, Connor RHIEL, that, yes, he's in that group with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Yes, he's in that group now. He has won a Super Bowl title. However, I have a little addendum. It's called yet to be determined in terms of sustained excellence. With Patrick Mahomes to get into that room, you got to have sustained excellence. So for right now, is he one of the great ones right now? Yes, he is. He's in the second tier. However, it's still out with the jury. Can he sustain it? That's what greatness is to me. My definition of greatness is defined by time. Sorry, us old folks. You see over time, you see excellence. That's my only thing. If he can maintain this, not just do well in the NFC title game and the Super Bowl, which are 2 incredible events, but can he do it next year, the following year, whoever's up? And can he? Yes.
Can I jump in here? You want longevity? 4 years, 4 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowls, a title, and an MVP. Is that not longevity? How many years do you need?
Moving forward,
you want 10, 12, 15, that kind of thing?
No, not 10, 12, 15. Give me 2 to 3 more years of sustained excellence. Like we've just seen him.
We've just level.
To be Mahomes, yeah. To be in that.
That's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
I thought you were.
That's all I'm asking in terms of.
We had to clarify.
Yeah, I had to clarify. I give him mad respect for what he has done. It's fantastic. It's great. However, give me that sustained excellence. Do what Mahomes did. Then there is no discussion. Surpass that, and you will end that discussion.
Yeah,
that's just my take on it.
The next step for Hurts is exactly what you described, and with that step comes the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
that is where that's what we're talking about now with him. We're no longer talking about would you take him or Dak Prescott, right? That's not the conversation anymore. Okay.
You don't want to be in the Aaron Rodgers discussion where, well, he only has one Super Bowl title. He put up some nice numbers, but he's only got one Super Bowl title. You want to be elite, you got to pass Ben Roethlisberger. You want to try and get Mahomes. You want to get Brady if that is the case. But just give me something over the next 2 to 3 more years.
Let me jump in here, Shane, real quick, and then it's all you because I know you got a good thing for us. The Roethlisberger comparison is really interesting. He's not that far. Roethlisberger was on great Steelers teams for his first 3-4 years. He won a Super Bowl, went to conference title games, and he was just a part of that team. And then he elevated to being the engine of that team. And he made that transition very smoothly. Is that what's next for Jalen Hurts? Hopefully with a little more team success than Roethlisberger. Okay, go, Shane.
My thing is Jalen Hurts has already been the engine of this team in their success. Like, you take this year aside, like, of course, the only thing that stopped him from being the engine was because Saquon Barkley was having an MVP caliber year, which is rare for running backs to have. So you're saying that I don't disagree. I disagree with you guys trying to put him on an equal footing with Ben Roethlisberger for, the early success that he had, because like you said, he was a part of the team. He wasn't the engine of the team. The defense was the engine. Jalen Hurts, their first Super Bowl appearance, was the engine of this team. There are multiple players that are on record of saying so. Multiple people within the organization that are on record of saying so. Jalen Hurts was the catalyst for that offense being where they were 2 years ago. Some would even say he was catalyst 1A to the reason why they were in the position this year, because of the effect that his presence had on the field for Saquon Barkley, opening up the field, allowing Saquon to do different things. Not taking anything away from Saquon, obviously a generational player, but having Jalen Hurts on the field, it gives defenses multiple factors to worry about. So
I think it's the same with Ben. I think you're thinking that we're dissing Big Ben. Big Ben was the missing piece for the Steelers. Yeah. He also allowed that all to go. And when it truly came down to it, just like Jalen Hurts, that 2008 Super Bowl, when it really, truly came down to it, it was Big Ben's arm that got the title, just like Jalen Hurts. That's what I'm saying, is these guys who are taking these steps, and they're hard to judge because they're taking their steps within a phenomenal ecosystem and infrastructure. It's not Peyton who gets to a dumpster fire indie team, and you can clearly see him building that team into this. It's harder to judge, but I think that everybody needs to take a little bit of a clearer look, like you said, and understand that he is just as much a part of this team's success as all the other great elements that it has. You know
and a footnote with Patrick Mahomes, as an example, sustained excellence to me is whatever adjustments that are thrown Jalen Hurts' way, they have to retool the team. He's still that same guy that they go, oh, he's the guy. No matter what they do, he's got to do that. He's got a Super Bowl title. Now build on that. No matter what the team does or changes that they do, you want to be like Patrick Mahomes? Mahomes still maintained the leadership on that team as a player with what he did on the field, sustaining the excellence. There is no drop-off.
I will say this. I do think out of that group, that tier 2 that you described, I do think Jalen Hurts is obviously closer to reaching that level than any other quarterback in that group. Closer than Joe Burrow, closer than Lamar Jackson, closer than Josh Allen. Like, I honestly feel like in this performance, and you guys have heard me say this, I feel like Jalen Hurts proved that he is a top 3 quarterback and not 3 in this performance because of not only just getting the win, but the way he got the win. Not only the year that he had in 2022, but the way he played in the Super Bowl. I feel like Jalen Hurts has proven more so that he's top 5, because I think that was proved a long time ago. Like, he really didn't prove anything to me because I saw what I already knew to be true. Like, I know he probably proved something to you.
Said the guy wearing the Eagles stuff.
I mean, look, I'm just being honest.
Just saying.
The whole merch store on for this one.
I'm just saying.
He didn't prove anything to me because I saw what I already knew to be true, what I already believed. I don't think it's a question of like if he's top 5 anymore, because some people think that this win just put him in top 10. I think that this isn't a conversation anymore of. No, I'm serious. Like, a lot of people in my comments, like on my last episode I did, they said, no, Jalen Hurts isn't top 5. He's top 10 though. He got a dub. He's top 10. But my thing is,
Well,
my thing is, that's what I'm saying. I don't know 8 quarterbacks that you could put in Jalen Hurts. Like, I don't know. But that's the crazy thing. Like, I feel like we need to normalize the fact that Jalen Hurts is inarguably top 5. But I think more specifically, it's not about him being top 5. It's where he is in that top 5. And me personally, I think it's 2. I truthfully think it's 2. I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. I mean, he had the highest EPA and dropback success rate and 5th highest yards per attempt since 2000. Only quarterback besides Joe Montana to lead multiple offenses to 35 and over points in the Super Bowl. He's done it twice. And he has the top 2 rushing performances in Super Bowls by a quarterback ever. He ran for 72 yards this year. He ran for 70 yards in 2022. So I feel like Jalen Hurts has honestly solidified himself as a top 3 quarterback and not 3, in my opinion.
You're saying he's the only quarterback in NFL history to lead multiple offenses to 35 or more?
No. Him and Joe Montana since 2000. No, not since 2000. Him and Joe Montana are the only 2 quarterbacks to lead 2 offenses, multiple to 2 offenses to over 35 plus points
in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl,
Tom Brady did it in the early 2000s and in the late 2000s, did he not? Did they not score 35 in the early 2000s? Would they have 32 against the Panthers?
Yeah, he never had over 35 twice. Now, obviously, no one's questioning Tom Brady's winning, but if we're looking at points, Tom Brady has never had more than 35 twice.
It's a little arbitrary, isn't it? Because he scored 32 against the Panthers. So it's like, why set this? Why set the barometer at 30? It's a little arbitrary.
It's just a fact. Like the only 2 quarterbacks to do that. I mean, it's just a fact. The only 2 quarterbacks to do that have been Joe Montana, who is the 3rd greatest quarterback to ever play the game, arguably 2nd, and then Jalen Hurts, who is on his way, who is fighting for Hall of Fame status right now. So I feel like with that being said, there's a lot of things that I feel like give Jalen Hurts the argument for being the 2nd best quarterback in the NFL right now. B. Smith, you're looking at me kind of weird. I see you. So in you guys' opinion, with that being said, do you guys think that Jalen Hurts deserves Super Bowl MVP? There are a lot of factors in this game, in my opinion.
Wait, you're not going to let us respond? You're not going to let B. Smith respond to the top 5 thing?
Well, this is B. Smith. This is, you can respond to it in this answer, unless you have a separate note. But go ahead.
He's 5th. He kind of by fingernail. He's the top 5. He's in the top 5. Still in the top 10. You're making him out to be among the top 2 or 3 greatest quarterbacks ever. Which I disagree.
That's not what I'm saying. That's
not
what I'm saying.
I just want to make sure.
I didn't say he's the top 3 greatest quarterback ever. He's not fighting for he's not in the GOAT conversation, but I'm saying the fact that he has those all-time stats already gives him a case for top 2, considering the fact that he's been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years.
I don't know what to do with that one, Connor.
It's a really interesting argument. It's a really interesting argument, and it takes us back to sort of a core thematic argument in sports that we get in all the time and that people will get in for as long as sports exist, right?
Sure.
Which is, how do you judge this? How do you judge Jalen Hurts, who has week to week has been a very good quarterback, but not week to week. He has not been the dominant individual force that the other guys have. He's had really good weeks, but he's also had bad weeks and average weeks, and he's just been a little bit more inconsistent week to week as a dominant, all-encompassing force on the football field. But in the reason we play the game is to get to the Super Bowl, and in those moments, he has proven that he is as good as anybody, and this is not an exaggeration. When given the opportunity on the biggest stage, he has played as well as any quarterback in the history of this league. And that does have to matter. And so how do you square those 2 factors? Because you got a player like Josh Allen, who has also had very big playoff moments, can't get over this Chiefs thing. Can't. But he has had incredible playoff moments. Clutch. He's played better in some losses than most quarterbacks have played in playoff wins. I mean, Josh.
They made up a rule for overtime because of Josh Allen.
And then you add in the fact that Josh Allen is every single week a totally dominant individual force on the football field. I mean, he is incredible. But then you've got Hurts, who has reached these unbelievably high highs that very few players in the history of this league has reached. So how do you judge those two things? And a lot of it just comes down to what you value when you're judging players. You got Lamar Jackson, who is breaking the game of football. He has taken Michael Vick athleticism and combined it with super elite passing ability. I mean, the guy is redefining what a quarterback can accomplish, and he's got the hardware to show it. But as Shane will be happy to point out, he's got a hurdle to get over, man. You got to now he played really well in the first round of the playoffs this year. He dominated a Pittsburgh Steelers team that a couple people on this chat happen to like a lot. So he does get some credit there. And then you've got Joe Burrow, who's a combination of the two. Joe Burrow has had those dominant clutch moments. You look at the national championship, you look at a Super Bowl run, you look at going into Kansas City and toppling Patrick Mahomes, something that Jalen Hurts hasn't had the chance to do, but that's up there with a great Super Bowl performance. That's pretty damn close, okay?
He just beat Mahomes.
I know, but Burrow's got that W on his resume, and that is a big W, okay? So you've got four guys here in this second tier who have all have compelling arguments to be considered right underneath Mahomes. And it's something that we can have fun discussions about for hours and hours because there's no definite, concrete right answer to this question, in my opinion. Personally, the week-to-week extreme levels of dominance is what I value. And so I do have Josh Allen at number 2. I've got Lamar at number 3. And then we can talk about Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. But this is not a podcast where I don't want to talk negatively about Jalen Hurts at all. He doesn't deserve that, right?
No.
And I think
this is his time.
Shane, your opinion is valid in this matter. Sometimes I come to you and I tell you, yeah, Shane, that opinion happens to be incorrect. In this possible situation, I think your opinion is valid, but it's not how I see it. But I don't want to diss Jalen Hurts today because Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl MVP and a champion. The week-to-week individual dominance, the body of work that Lamar and Josh have put together, to me, is enough to keep them up, solidified in those spots right now. I expect Jalen Hurts, as I said, to continue to move up the ladder because that's what he does. But
sustained excellence.
I can only call it how I see it. Apologies to Jalen. Shane said after our last one, Brian, he said, "What if Jalen sees what you said?" I'm like, "Oh no, come on." No, I can only call it how I see it. All right.
He probably look at it sideways, but I'm like, okay.
So, B. Smith, you said Jalen Hurts he doesn't have the sustained excellence in order to put him over the other three guys, but he has more playoff success than the other three guys in less years starting. Like you brought up Lamar Jackson, for example, and Connor, I've read you this stat before, but if you look at Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts in comparison between their first 5 years starting, Jalen Hurts has more wins. He averages more passing yards per game. He has more total touchdowns. They have the same amount of Pro Bowl selections, but obviously Jalen Hurts has more conference titles, meaning more Super Bowl appearances, and he has a ring. So Jalen Hurts he already has that sustained success. I mean, just within this 3-year span alone.
Wait, did you do MVPs? I didn't hear it.
Okay, Lamar Jackson has more MVPs, but how have we seen that translate to the playoffs though? How have we seen Lamar Jackson's MVPs translate to the playoffs?
But I think that's the thing, right? And I don't mean to cut you off, B. Smith, but I got to keep going because I got thoughts coming. Nobody can say that Lamar Jackson has outperformed Jalen Hurts in the playoffs. He simply has not, right? Yeah. This is not a case of us trying to argue that Lamar has done more in the playoffs. It's rather it's how you judge it and to see what Lamar has done, to look at the positives that he has brought to the table. Those, to me, when I am making this rankings, are enough to overcome some playoff failures, some playoff successes, but some playoff failures. That's just how I see it, is what I've seen him accomplish in terms of dominating the game of football as consistently as he does is enough to overcome Jalen Hurts hitting these insanely high peaks with his Super Bowl performances and this year's conference title game performance. It's a matter of how you create your value system for ranking players.
But we always rank players on their ability to win games and win in the postseason. That's the reason why Dan Marino is not seen as a top 3 quarterback all time, even though he is one of the most talented, one of the best QBs of all time. He doesn't break into that top 3 because of his postseason success.
Who's better all time, Dan Marino or Terry Bradshaw? Who's better all time?
I'll take Marino.
I feel like it's not crazy if you take Terry because of his postseason success. Now, like if you're choosing a quarterback to build a team around, like you would probably like I wouldn't say you're crazy for taking Dan Marino, but that's a different conversation.
Well,
that's a different conversation. If you're looking at who the better winner is, the better winner between those two is clearly Terry Bradshaw.
But we're ranking
who also has an MVP.
But we're ranking players. We're ranking who the better player is.
If it's prolific numbers, Marino tops Bradshaw. Bradshaw had like 2 Hall of Fame receivers, John Stallworth, Lynn Swann. He had Franco Harris. He had Rocky Blyer, Hall of Famers. Marino didn't have those kind of guys. He had Mark Duper, among others. But he did a lot with his arm that carried Miami.
I got another one for you. Who's better all time, Rodgers or Roethlisberger?
Ooh,
that's
I would lean towards
Rodgers has a ring. Rodgers has a ring,
but not as many.
Not as many. He's got 2.
So what we're saying,
that's a one ring difference. We're still talking about winners. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen haven't shown to be winners yet,
but they have
Joe Burrow has at least been there.
Josh Allen, in my personal opinion, Josh Allen has shown that he can perform at his best on the biggest stage. He hasn't got the wins. He had a game where the Chiefs scored in 13 damn seconds. He had a game where Stephon Diggs dropped a potential game-winning pass. To me, Josh Allen has proven to me that he will perform year in and year out on the biggest stage. And yes, if he wants to be one of the true greats, he's got to get that ring. But my point that I'm trying to make to you with these comparisons is rings, right? Rings culture, rings is a very big part, but a part of the quarterback argument. And so
he's coming to my side. Thank you, Connor. Thank you. Rings do matter.
I see what you're saying.
Rings matter.
I see what you're saying. Like, I'm not going to say that, like, if Brock Purdy were to win the Super Bowl last year, right? I'm not going to say that he's a better quarterback than Lamar or Josh or even Jalen. You know, even though he has more rings, he obviously doesn't have the same ability that those really 4 guys have in Jalen, in Lamar, in Josh, in Burrow. But my thing is that even though Jalen Hurts has more rings, he has shown, as you stated earlier in this podcast, he has shown the ability to be an elite quarterback. He didn't have a lot of room to show that this year just because of how dominant Saquon was this year. But you can accredit some of Saquon's success to the fact that Jalen Hurts was even on the field.
Of course.
We've seen Jalen Hurts be an MVP caliber player before when he was in a consistent offense. So we're seeing Jalen Hurts consistently be a high level, one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, regardless of, I mean, think about how many different offensive systems he's been in his career. Just looking at the NFL alone. He's only had a back-to-back offensive coordinator one time in his career, and that one time he was an MVP candidate, not an MVP candidate, an MVP runner-up, and he was a Super Bowl. He was a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. So I feel taking those things into account, I feel like that gives him a leg up as well. Go ahead.
Do we also agree that he had talent around him too? Do we agree? Do we agree he did have talent around him too?
But what quarterback doesn't have talent around them in order to win a Super Bowl? Like, what quarterback hasn't had
Lamar Jackson? Up until this year, Lamar Jackson
has had talent. Derrick Henry was an MVP candidate too.
So
that was his past year.
B. Smith, let me jump in. Shane, not 10 minutes ago, you made the argument that position to position, you just made the argument that this is the greatest team in 100 years. So if you're going to say that, then you must also acknowledge that Jalen does in fact have a better roster and more help than the other quarterbacks, if you're going to call it the best team in 100 years.
But I can say that because they won, and they don't win without Jalen Hurts. That's the difference. Like if we could say that's the difference between, like, we don't even have a chance to analyze the teams Josh Allen has had, the teams Lamar has had, Joe Burrow, the team he had the year he went to the Super Bowl, because they haven't won. Because they haven't won. So we can't even.
We can analyze teams that lose.
But I'm saying in terms of that discussion that we were having, Super Bowl winning teams, we can't even talk about them in that context because they didn't win. And Jalen Hurts was the difference between winning and losing in that game.
Independent, Jalen Hurts played incredible in that game, and he gets full credit for that. And again, he is right there. I mean, he is right there, up right in that second tier, right below Mahomes. He's there. Can you at least admit, okay, as your comments have begged you to do, the Eagles have, outside of Jalen Hurts, quarterback independent, the Eagles have the best roster in the National Football League, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when we're splitting hairs and we're judging things that are very, very close, that it's an important fact. It does matter in this discussion. Maybe it's not fair to penalize someone for that, right?
No.
Because
he can't control.
Right.
And that's
he elevates his teammates as well. But I think a lot of people who look at Lamar and Josh's week to week, year to year, every single game, individual dominance, they see someone who is doing that with less help around them, and they're still able to accomplish incredible things. And so I don't think it's wrong of those people to use that as a metric in rating these quarterbacks. We just see it differently. It's a different. Yeah. And look, Jalen Hurts comes out next year, and he's absolutely balling. And I think he will, because of what I said, his superpower is the ability to get better. Then we can talk about putting him in that spot. But I just think there's a lot of people who, when you see Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson do what they do on the football field, it is genuinely astounding week to week, month to month, year to year. There's no downturn. There's no collapse. I mean, they lose games here and there. The Ravens lose more weird games than anyone. But what they do consistently on the field is just it's incredible. And I think that is enough to put them up in the number 2 or number 3 spot on these rankings. And you see it as winning the playoffs. I don't value those things as much. Go get a W in the playoffs. And that's also a legitimate viewpoint, because that's what this thing is all about.
It's not that
I'm going to differ on this.
It's not that I don't value those things. And I'll this leads into my last question for today. It's not that I don't value those things. It's just that I don't think that just makes up for their lack of the ability to win when it matters most. Like, I feel like when we're looking at these elite quarterbacks who are elite guys in the regular season, you know, Josh Allen, who has had better performances in the postseason than Lamar, I feel like when you're looking at a guy who has also shown the ability to do those things, but has the postseason success to match, I feel like that's where you have to give a guy like Jalen Hurts the leg up, because we've seen many talented teams who have made it to the Super Bowl or even the conference championship who haven't been able to get the ring. And it has come down to the quarterbacks of those teams usually being the difference makers for the reason why they are crowned the champs and not crowned the runner-ups.
So but when you look at looking at
that fact, you know, looking at that fact, the way Jalen Hurts played, Jalen Hurts now was not the only dominant performance in this Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Eagles. What I want to know from you guys, do you think Jalen Hurts deserved Super Bowl MVP in this game? Connor, we can start with you. You were about to jump in.
Yes, 1,000%. I don't know. Hell, can I curse on here? Yes, absolutely. What, is that a controversy? Or point me, who is saying he doesn't deserve MVP?
Well, B. Smith,
I didn't even know that was a debate. Who is having this debate?
It is a debate.
Show themselves. Heck yes, he's the MVP.
He deserved MVP.
What?
Without a doubt. Although Josh Sweat was making an early case for MVP.
Good game.
Very
Josh
good
Sweat.
game. But as soon as Jalen took over, I think if the game stayed 24-0, then you would probably lean towards Josh Sweat. But once Jalen took over, he's the MVP. Give it to him. Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, I just introduced that because I wanted to get a better sense of where your guys' heads was at, because now I believe Jalen Hurts deserved MVP, but I do also believe that at least an honorable mention has to go to at least that front four of the defense.
Oh, my bad.
No. Yes. Yeah.
Why are you such a troll? Why are you such
Jahan. He said he made
Jahan.
But no, I do think that an honorable mention has to go to that defense, just because of how they just completely demoralized a Chiefs offense. Really, just made them look like they didn't even want to play anymore. Like they almost took their ball and went home.
I think there were multiple players that deserved it. I would have been okay. I think multiple players deserved it, but I think Jalen deserved it 1,000%. I mean, he absolutely dominated the game. Saquon Barkley had 57 yards rushing.
Yeah,
he got plenty of carries. Jalen Hurts
25
went out. We talked about this before the playoffs. If the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts is going to have to do it with his arm at some point. We're so good that it looked like that point might not come, but it came in the Super Bowl, and he did it. I mean, that's as MVP as it gets right there.
B. Smith?
I agree. It's one of those now moving forward, can you do it again and again? And it's on his shoulders.
So that's my question.
Like no matter who's around him, you want to get to
Hurts.
Yeah.
As Saquon Barkley ages, right?
Yep.
And can Jalen Hurts become a quarterback? Is it just not needed? Is it still developing? Or is it not his game? Can he become a quarterback who week in and week out is throwing 40 touchdowns and 10 interceptions on the season and is dominating games with different roster? Can he become that? And
why is that the criteria though for him being considered like an unquestionable elite guy? Like he doesn't
because that's what it takes.
No, it
doesn't. That's what it takes.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
Wait,
you want to be like hold on. You want to be like Patrick Mahomes. You want to be like Jordan. You want to be like Tiger Woods. You got to be that guy. Remember what I've always said.
We're talking about
Patrick Mahomes. Okay. But in case of
Steve Smith, you're talking. What Shane just said is, why does he need that to be unquestionably elite? And I agree with Shane. I think he's unquestionably elite now. That's not what B. Smith and I are. Maybe we're too excited, right? But we're now looking at what can he be? That's what we're talking about.
We've already seen greatness. We've already seen his greatness. We've already seen it.
Can he be one of those guys who in 10 years, we're talking about who are the greatest quarterbacks of this generation and all time? Can Jalen Hurts
one better, Connor? How about the next 2 years? You've heard me say this before about Mahomes. The great ones, you go, oh, shoot, he's got the ball. I haven't felt that yet with Jalen Hurts. When he's got the ball, he's getting there. He's getting there.
Yeah.
But if he becomes like Patrick Mahomes just over the last 2 to 3 years, where Mahomes, and we all agree, when he has the ball, you kind of go, uh-oh. And we've seen him do what he does time and time again.
You know what I liked? I liked in the Washington Commanders game when Cam Jurgens was out for the first half and then Landon Dickerson got hurt and an unhealthy Cam Jurgens had to come in. And you're talking about the center position, and that's the strength of the team. And Jalen Hurts is not impacted by this. He is able to adjust and elevate along with his teammates to make up for that's what I like to see. Those are the things that have me pushing him into elite status. I believe he is an elite quarterback. What we're talking about in terms of having years where he's throwing for multiple touchdowns every game and his arm and his mind is carrying a team week in and week out. And if you don't need to do that, I'm not going to penalize you for having a great team. But when we're talking GOATs now. I mean, this is a new conversation with Jalen Hurts. This is not about whether he's elite right now. I think he's elite. But B. Smith, did you hear the names B. Smith mentioned? He said Tiger Woods. He said, when you're talking about those names,
that's elite.
Right. And maybe it sounds
It's
like
like
we're still criticizing him, but it's because now we can see a
not.
future where
We see
we
the
finally
ability.
got to your place, Shane. You're happy. We're at
Yeah.
the table with you
I do
now.
agree.
And now
So
we're looking
you-
ahead.
you
to
can't-
what can
you
be.
can't just-
Also, I gotta,
you-
boys. I gotta go. I gotta go.
I know.
It's
You can't just be at the table. You got to be the guy that goes, "Oh, excuse me, Mr. Hurts. Here you go."
The sky is the limit.
That's
The
that guy.
ceiling is the roof. The ceiling
Yes,
is the roof
the
for
ceiling is the
Jalen
roof.
Hurts.
As Michael Jordan would say. That's greatness to me.
I hear what you guys are saying. I appreciate that you are. I don't know why it took this long, but I appreciate that you guys are seeing him in that scope. This honestly needs a part 2 because there are segments of this game that we didn't even get to touch on really. But
we'll get back.
We'll schedule a part 2. But that's all for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, clap it up. Great. Yeah, great episode. Great dub. Eagles got it done. That's all for today's edition. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on, hopefully, possibly with the fellas.
And if you're gonna comment, don't call me a goofball now. I had a long 15 years of childhood being called a goofball. I thought I left that in the past. All right.
No, you deserve that for questioning.
All you gotta do is say, I think Connor's wrong. You don't have to say this guy's a clown goofball up here. All right.
Be honest in the comments.
My face is a little flush, but
be honest in the comments.